Welcome back, grade 8s. Today we're going to look at interpreting algebraic expressions, and there are certain things in algebra that you have to learn. One of them is the vocabulary. So if we have a look at words that would mean add, addition or add, sum of, that one's quite important, increased by, or more than. So those are the key words to tell you when to add an algebraic expression. Let's have a look at subtraction. Plain and simple. Subtract or subtraction. Difference, that's quite an important one. Decreased by or less than. You've got to know those synonyms for those operations. Let's have a look at multiplication. So we either told to multiply, or one that you need to know is find the product of. That means multiply. And then lastly, division. They tell you to divide. Or quotient. The key word for division is quotient. Let's look at the test your understanding. So the first thing we need to do is identify keywords. Product. Remember we said product means multiply. So I've got to multiply A and B. So the product of A and B is going to be A multiplied by B. And if we simplify that, it is AB. Remember, I could also write it as A with a dot in between. Let's look for our next keywords in number 2. Sum, squares. Sum means to add. Squares, exponents, the square of. Right, let's have a look here. So we've got to find the sum of the squares of P and Q. So we're going to put a P and a Q. Let's have a look at this side. The sum of the square root. Now please note there's a big difference between square root and squares. Look at these two. They are similar, but squares and square root is the difference here. So we are going to find the sum of the square root of P and the square root of Q. Let's look at our next example. The square of the sum. Identify your keywords. Change it to mathematical operations. Square is to square, sum is to add. The square of the sum of D and E. So I must find the sum of D and E. I then square it. Square root and sum is the other keyword. Now remember, square root is that symbol. Square is different to the square root. So we're going to find the sum of D and E. So D plus E. And we are going to square root. Let's look at the last one. The cube of X decreased. So highlight your keywords first. Change them to mathematical symbols. Cube is written like that. Decreased means minus. So the cube of X decreased by 10. So X decreased by 10, and then we are going to cube that answer. Let's have a look at the last one. The cube root, which is different to a cube, decreased. 2 keywords. Mathematical language, cube root. Decreased is minus. So X decreased by 10. X decreased by 10, and we are going to cube root. These are expressions. There's no answer to it. You just have to convert words into mathematical symbols. Your exercise today is on page 75, exercise 6.1 for your next maths lesson.